potentially signing one of the best midfielders in the world to a player who has been relegated twice, and then actually signing someone that puts the fan base into meltdown. This is a week in the world of the Manchester United transfer window. Let's get into it. One thing we've learned about a Manchester United transfer window under INEOS is that it's going to be long. Why? Because Manchester United and the Glazers in particular have put Manchester United into a predicament that means clubs are taking the piss out of us. What does that mean? Well, transfer fees. People are asking for ridiculous prices for their players. £85 million for players that have been relegated. It's absolutely absurd. And now you're looking at teams like Bournemouth who are asking 80 plus million for players like Alex Scott. What can they do? INEOS, I guess, have got their hands tied behind their back because they cannot operate in a market where Manchester United don't get value for money. This is something that unfortunately we're going to have to live with, and it may continue for a long while still. And that's why Manchester United and INEOS in particular have gone into the transfer market and been happy to wait until the end of the window to make sure they get their targets in place. Now let's take a look at this transfer window. Well, your tier 1 signings, your marquee signings, a Tchouaméni. Now take a step back and everybody think about it. Were Manchester United going to sign Tchouaméni? Or was this another Frankie de Jong? Or in particular, was this another Ramos? Remember when Sergio Ramos was a Manchester United supporter? His father was a Manchester United supporter and he wanted to play for Manchester United. Well, how did that turn out? Twice. He actually used Manchester United to get another contract, and this is exactly what's happened again. We have gone down the path where a player from Real Madrid has used us. It may have been possible that we would have signed him if Jose Mourinho came in and said, I don't want you. His relationship, for example, with French players like Paul Pogba, it deteriorated. We all saw that video clip of when Paul Pogba came into training once and the coldness, the harshness that Mourinho treated him with, well, the relationship was over. And maybe he thought that Tchouaméni would be a similar type of player. But that obviously hasn't happened because the incident that happened with Tchouaméni and Valverde, well, maybe you see a player there that is ready to fight. And that's exactly what Mourinho wants, a player with attitude. This is a world-class player that has won multiple Champions Leagues with Real Madrid. And was it really likely that Manchester United were going to sign him? Well, I think we were led down a bit of a path here. And yes, we can all kind of say we were led down the path a little bit at least. There's some of us that will become a bit righteous here and say, well, I never thought we'd sign him. Fair enough, that's you. But I did hold a little hope. But obviously, I was not holding out for a Tchouaméni, here we go, or a David Ornstein, breaking news saga with him. And I'm really glad that Manchester United kind of ended it, or it's not Manchester United, that actually Real Madrid ended it sooner rather than later, and it didn't turn into a Frankie de Jong. And then you've got players like Elliot Anderson. Now I have to put a little bit of blame here on Manchester United. Were INEOS actually thinking that, oh, he hasn't signed for Manchester City yet, so we can still sign him? Oh, he still hasn't signed for Manchester City yet, we can still sign him. Well, it seems that everyone knew that he was signing for Manchester City other than INEOS. So thinking that you were going to sign him, then why didn't you just go straight in and put a bid in for the player? Maybe even increase how much Man City paid for him. Because, again, Manchester United's signings and their targets let them down. And then they've waited nearly a month for Mateus Fernandes. Now that's worked against them because Manchester United have spent 4 weeks when they could have signed other players. We've just signed Carl Darlow as a backup keeper. Why couldn't we have done that in June? And this again is another problem. The chaos surrounding a Manchester United transfer window, or lack of it even, because there was practically nothing going on. And then you get to the end of June and you get a club who are absolutely desperate in Tottenham and sign him for a ridiculous amount of money. Now, don't get me wrong, I do believe that Manchester United are right not to sign players that A, don't want to play for them, want huge wages, and where the club they're coming from want ridiculous transfer fees. Fine, but we've got to start to move quicker. Why not start a bidding war? Why not go in there with a bid straight away, see what they want, and then start negotiating hard? Because sometimes you can do that, and sometimes the name of Manchester United can, hold its weight. So this is kind of the beginning of how this debacle all started. What's happened now is that Manchester United have had to kind of relook at their transfer targets. I've always said that you should have a top tier of class one or top tier signings. That could have been obviously Chouameni, Ellie Anderson, Mateus Fernandez, etc. But we can't be going down in ability, because what is the point? If we've got a tier system of 1, 2, and 3, if we go down to 2 and 3, what is the point of that? Because all you're doing is going down in ability or buying potential. Manchester United need midfielders and need midfielders now. We can't be waiting 2, 3 years for a project. We need to be making sure, as priority one, is getting back into the Champions League and winning a cup. Because we cannot be that team that is just yo-yos up and down again. Because when we lose out on that money, Manchester United's transfer window next season will become difficult. And then again, it's this saga of we have to buy players that want to play for Man United with right transfer fees. We can't be taken, you know, advantage of by other clubs. It's ridiculous because we're Manchester United. So United have had to kind of relook at it and become a bit clever here and build up a kind of a transfer pool of players that the statisticians have to back. The eye test has to work. We can't just go into a player that we've not seen before and hasn't got the experience. And obviously, it's very important that we still maintain that we buy players from the Premier League. Now, I don't mean that it's just the be all and end all, and we can't sign anyone from outside the Premier League. But if you can, I'd say yes, sign the player from the Premier League. So reassess the targets, and that's what we've had to do. And that's where now it seems as though we're going towards. One of the big things that is happening right now is all the fake news. Everyone is trying to find out who are Manchester United signing, when they're going to be signing for, what type of deals are we going to be making. And fans, especially the fans of the digital age, who are purely getting their news from social media outlets, X, things like that, we don't know what to believe, and it's causing a lot of hysteria, a lot of fans maybe even getting that transfer anxiety, making sure that these people are making sure that they're feeding us so much different types of news that we don't know who to believe. So it's very important that Manchester United make it clear. Now obviously not come out and just tell everybody your transfer plans, but kind of get some reputable sources here. And obviously they use the Athletic quite a lot and Sully Talks, but maybe brief a few of these agents, and also people like Andy Mitten a little bit more, and to stop all this chaos. But as we know, Manchester United feed on this. Bad news is good news for Manchester United, and this is kind of a hangover from the Ed Woodward days, where social media clicks are so important. Even when Manchester United are doing really bad, it's great because it means all eyes are on Manchester United. But then it's also causing frenzy in the fan base, and knowing who to trust and who not to trust, and kind of that clickbait media with the big headlines. What can fans actually do, when we're trying to have a successful summer, see what our team's going to look like, who our club's going to buy? Because that's just what Manchester United fans do, and you can't knock us for doing that. But it's really important that what's happening right now, they do it right, because it's going to cause obviously a ripple effect when we don't sign anyone. And sadly, the transfer window has become a bit of a lackluster and a bit of a letdown. And that's very easy to admit, even to the most staunch supporter who just, finishes watching Manchester United at the end of the season and rewatches them again. And if they poke their head in here and there, they'll see what's going on with Manchester United. And even they'll be getting worried, thinking, Manchester United haven't really signed anyone. And that will obviously lead to the reputation of the club. Again, the name being tarnished. Again, teams looking at us thinking, hey, Manchester United are an easy touch. And obviously the players will look at that as well. And then talking about, okay, the transfers that we are making, look what's come up with Edison. Something's happened in America when they've had their first medical. Something's come up, and there's so many conspiracy theories now. Fans don't even know who to look to kind of get their real news from about this whole medical saga. You've got Italian reporters in DiMaggio saying one thing, you've got Fabrizio Romano saying another thing, and then you've got these random people saying all sorts that they've picked something up in the meniscus issue. I mean, obviously, a medical is an integral part to every transfer in a modern day because clubs invest a huge amount of money in them. So they need to make sure that something that pops up, they need to know it early. Just look at the Hoyland transfer last year. They found some kind of hairline fracture in his back, which cost him what was it 3 to 6 weeks of his playing career, especially at the beginning when he signed for Manchester United. That's really, really important that they get that right because obviously you can still sign an injured player. It just depends on the medical experts say what type of injury is and could this be long standing. If we knew a bit more, I mean, obviously Delict's injury came 6, 7 months obviously into the season, but just imagine that they found that out that he has a back injury when we were signing him. I don't think Manchester United would have signed him because who wants to sign a player that has a back injury for 6, 7 months and could potentially come back? Now, obviously, I'm not saying that's exactly what's happening with Delict, but it's just trying to me making the point. So this whole thing now with Edison, what have they found? I'm confident that we will sign him. I mean, there was a conspiracy theory that Manchester United are using this kind of medical saga now to pull out so they can go and put their money into another player. And that player is Manu Kone. The chaos continues. Did you know that, yes, Manu Kone is having a brilliant World Cup, but his injury record is awful? Why don't you think people have heard of him? Why don't you think that some of the top teams around Europe haven't already bought him? He's 25 years old. He's got Italian league experience. Look at him at the World Cup. There's a reason why he's not playing for a big club because he's got an awful injury record for Roma. But we're apparently going in for him. Now, if he didn't have an injury record like he did, I would be, you know what? I wouldn't be dissatisfied with a Santos, a Kone and Edison. Why? Because you've got players here that press so well. Duels, tackles, forward passes, pace. We are building a midfield here, an engine that is going to last 90 minutes plus consistently. And that's what Manchester United should be building. We've got goal scorers. We've got a number 10 in Bruno Fernandes. It's just a partner for Kobe Menu. And I don't mean Kobe Menu has to always play every single game. He needs to be rested and he also needs to be tested because he's very young as well. He signed a new contract. That doesn't mean that, when these type of players, these young players sign these big contracts and that's it, they've made it. We need to make sure we've got someone that tests him. And these are the type of players. And I guess, it's a great segue to lean onto the actual or to go onto the actual player we've signed. And that is Andre Santos. Now I'll put my hands up and say, I didn't know much about him. And some of the people that have already come out and made videos about, oh my God, I can't believe Chelsea supporters, they're lying. Why would you go and believe a Chelsea supporter anyway? One thing, yes, some of these Chelsea supporters have valid opinions, some really good, popular kind of supporters that are, got Rory Jennings, for example, very reputable. Matisse, who's on DR Sports quite a lot. Yes, these guys can be really annoying and kind of the way the fan base is right now where it's a lot of clickbait media, a lot of interactions when it comes to fighting each other and kind of all that kind of new age modernized kind of rivalry they have online. But players, people like Laurie Jennings, they don't talk stupid and they don't put their players down for any old reason, and they've all said that this is a really good player. And I'm going to say you don't need to take their opinion. Go and look at the stats. I'll be one of them people that'll say I didn't know much about him, but when I look down into his stats, this guy played some really important games for Chelsea, for Strasbourg. This guy has been touted and has already been said by Andy Mitten that he'll become Brazil's new number 6. The guy scored some really important goals, played against Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham last season. He's, in all competitions, he played about 40 games. He scored, he contributed, assists. But it's how he basically played in that midfield. His connection with the number 6 or number 8. He's a number 6 and number 8. He is a great for a double pivot, a type of player that is going to get the ball back and get the ball forward. He's young, he's hungry. For Strasbourg, he's one of their best players. He's one of the best players in France when he played there. Fact. But the fan base was melting down because it wasn't a marquee signing. Now, again, what is a marquee signing? I've said it before. These could be the marquee signings. Now, Manchester United need an engine. They need legs. We've lacked it for years. Anyone with pace. The best midfield three we've had in the last 13 years was Pogba, Matic, and Herrera. That had it all. Passing, pace, power, you name it. And since then, it's been a mishmash. And now we've got a player who basically fits that mold, and everyone's going crazy about him. Well, no, obviously the dust has settled and everyone seems to calm down. And I've watched Stretford Paddock, I've watched like Joe, I've watched United People's TV, Sam, and I've seen bits on the other channels from United View who I really enjoy watching as well. But Flex and Owen, sometimes their opinion is a bit kind of hyperbolized, and that's exaggerated, a bit of a meltdown kind of thing, and then they come to their senses. But my opinion is that yes, I was underwhelmed, but that doesn't mean he's not a bad player and he can't fit this system, because INEOS, one thing we know, I've got a decent track record. And if you look at this recent signings, Dorgu, Heaven, Le Mans, tell me they all ain't really good players and have high ceilings. Euro, we're going to be, a decent proposition next year. And yes, we need squad players and we need a bigger squad, but don't let this one signing put you down. We have to accept that this is the way it will be for a while, and doesn't mean that it's the end. What we do know is Manchester United need to sign players, and I'm fully confident that Manchester United will. Now the pre-season has started. Some of the players are already back. Benjamin Sesko, Dorgu's come back from injury, obviously at the end of last season. He'll have a full pre-season. Sesko will be great. Now, don't get me wrong, these players would really love to play in the World Cup, but as a Manchester United fan, I'd have to say great. Sesko obviously was injured toward the end of last season. He'll come back and have a full pre-season. Bruno Fernandes, some of the players that have already been knocked out will come back a little bit earlier. Manchester United, for the first 3 games, Hull, Coventry and Everton, have to get a squad together to potentially beat these teams with a limited amount of players or with a limited amount of signings. Then yes, we will have a decent enough squad for them first few games. It all depends on how Carrick's style, how he implements the training. Some of these guys who are very good professionals, towards the end of their holidays, always start training anyway. You saw some videos and pictures of Mbuemo. So I expect, in the next couple of weeks, some of these guys to come back, obviously, from the World Cup duty. Cunha is one of them. Dallo barely played. We'll have a good enough squad. So if it is that the transfer window comes towards the end of the start of the season and we've signed a couple of players, don't be panicked, because Manchester United should have a good enough squad. Now, that's famous last words, but this is a different Manchester United. The way we're going to be playing under Carrick, I fully expect us to go into the season and make sure we start off well, because what we've proved under him is that we can beat teams that are, below us. We can beat teams that are around us, and definitely beat teams that are above us. Now, it was a bit of a struggle, don't get me wrong, in some of the games under Carrick, but ultimately, it's a fresh new season, pre-season, rested players, and again, with a couple of new signings, I expect Manchester United, especially to go into a season where the 2 teams that we play first have just come up from the Championship. So, expectations are obviously high, and in reality, what's going on, yes, it's probably a bit mediocre. But ultimately, Manchester United and the transfer window, well, it's neither there or here. What do you guys think? What do you think? How many players do you think will be signing? Do you think we'll get more signings in July, or continue to kind of wait it out and make sure we get the right player and going on into August? What type of signings do you think Manchester United should go for next? Is it one more midfielder and then we focus on, is it a left wing, a striker, maybe even a centre back? Because now we've also just signed Carl Darlow as the backup keeper. So clearly Altay Bayindir's career is over. We know that Obviously, the guy that cost us the Champions League, I don't want to say his name, but I'll have to say it, is Andre Onana. When I mean cost us the Champions League, I mean just kicked us out of it single-handedly in the group stage. He's gone to Turkey. So who else do we need to sign and in what positions? Are you confident that Manchester United will get them over the line, or should we be patient and make sure we get the right players, players that want to sign for Manchester United? And that is the key question of all of this. We get players that want to play for Manchester United. And it just might take that little bit of extra time and patience before we get there. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back.